Forget New Year, New You. This season is about slowing down, locking the doors, and cozying up at home with the one you really want to do nothing with. Your dog. After the holiday chaos, those quiet nights with a blanket, a podcast, and your pup feel like the reset you actually need. Ollie helps make those moments easier with fresh protein-packed meals made from real human-grade ingredients, so your dog can enjoy some quality comfort food too. Choose from 5 recipes and get a personalized plan for your dog's needs. Meals arrive perfectly proportioned with a scoop and storage container, so serving is fast and mess-free. And with Ollie's in-app on-demand health screenings, supporting your dog is easy, ensuring more cuddles for many years to come. Visit ollie.com/truecrime and use code TRUECRIME for 60% off your first box.
On the morning of December 23rd, 2015, Rick Dabate made his kids' lunches, fed the family cats, and cleaned out their litter boxes, the mundane, routine activities of life, while his wife Connie was exercising at the YMCA. It was her day off from work. When Connie arrived at the gym that morning at 8:53, she found out her class was canceled, so she returned back home. She was seen on video surveillance leaving at 9:08. She lived 4.9 miles away, a drive police would later say takes approximately 7 minutes and 38 seconds. Meanwhile, Rick went to work. I didn't get very far, he would later tell detectives. He forgot his laptop and turned around. It was only a few minutes to get back. He drove up the driveway, went inside. It was around 8:45 or 9 a.m. at that point, Rick said. Something stood out to him, a noise upstairs. He assumed the sound was the cats stuck in the closet again. And when I opened up the closet door, there was an intruder, Rick said.
What did the intruder look like?
It's larger than me, dressed in what I would consider camouflage, so jumpsuit.
What color was the jumpsuit?
Green.
What type of camouflage?
I would describe it as a hunting gear, possibly. Something like that.
The camouflage-dressed intruder who had been hiding in the closet demanded Rick's wallet and his PIN numbers. Otherwise, the intruder said, I'm going to wait here for your wife and your kids. Rick remembered the voice sounded like the actor Vin Diesel.
Based on your knowledge of 7 First Street Drive, how do you think he knew you had a family?
I'd have to guess my son's bedroom is to the left when you walk up the stairs, and we have photos all over the house.
Would you walk by those photos to go upstairs?
Yes.
The sounds of a Christmas bell alerted him that the door leading into the house had opened. Connie was back. Rick described what happened next.
The intruder grabbed my hand, twisted it somehow, forced me to the ground, and ran out.
Ran out of the closet?
Ran out of the closet.
What did you do?
I eventually got up and I ran after him.
Connie ran down to the basement. The intruder followed. Rick followed too, falling. He later told police he heard Connie say, I have a gun, get out of my house. He then heard a loud bang, a single gunshot. He saw a flash, and then he saw Connie fall to the ground. It happened very fast, he said. His ears were ringing from the noise. He fell down again. The intruder pulled zip ties from Rick's tool bag and zip-tied him to a chair, starting with his ankles, then his neck, and then his left hand behind his back. Rick said the zip ties were done tightly. He couldn't slip out of them. According to the police report, he told police at one point that the intruder did some sort of pressure thing on his neck and was wrist-walking him like a dog. The intruder grabbed a box cutter from the tool bag and stabbed him several times. Then the intruder found something else, a blowtorch. He burned Rick's ankles and then started putting things into a box like he was going to make a fire. Rick said he tried fighting back with his free hand. He hit the blowtorch, which he thought must have burned the intruder's mask. The intruder dropped the blowtorch and fled. going through the bulkhead in the basement. Rick told the police the intruder had been wearing gloves. Later, investigators couldn't identify any fingerprints on the blowtorch or the box cutter. Rick spent about 5 minutes in the basement. He managed to crawl upstairs, with the chair still attached, and call 911. Investigators found him lying on the floor of his kitchen, tied to a metal folding chair at the back of his right wrist. No fingerprints, a masked intruder. Investigators would have to get creative to solve the case. They would even have to look at a piece of new technology to figure out who the killer was. Over the next couple years, headlines would refer to this case as the Fitbit murder. This is Jillian, and in partnership with Law and Crime, you are listening to Court Junkie, episode 214. Rick Dabate met his future wife, Connie, at a summer party in 1997, right after he graduated high school. They were just friends at first. Once Rick found out Connie broke up with her boyfriend, he asked her out. They were in their early 20s by then. 5 years later, around late 2002, they were engaged and got married. With a baby on the way, Connie and Rick bought a bigger house in Ellington, Connecticut, near where Connie's parents lived. She was from a big Italian family and was close with her siblings. She reportedly loved the tradition of going Black Friday shopping with her family every year. Connie and Rick's first son was born in 2006. Their second was born 3 years later. Connie worked as a pharmaceutical sales representative, meeting with doctors and traveling the state. Rick worked in IT and became a network administrator for an assisted living facility. According to Rick, Connie was the breadwinner by a few $1,000s, not much. With 2 incomes, the couple seemed to be financially well off. They invested in a rental property. In life, Connie Dabate seemed to be one of those women who had it all: a career, a family, pursuits outside the home, and plenty of people who loved her. She was a talented pharmaceutical sales rep. She was active. She liked to cycle and work out. She also gave back and volunteered regularly in the community. But what mattered the most to her, according to her family, was being a mom to her 2 boys, who in 2015 were ages 6 and 9. She loved her boys more than anything. One family member described 39-year-old Connie as
the mother who worked side by side with them in the basement on a huge Harry Potter Lego set for hours. She played outside with them, even past their bedtime, and then shared a bowl of sugar cereal with them.
Connie's family would later tell the media that her favorite color was yellow, and that seemed reminiscent of Connie herself. She was described by those who knew her as sweet, loving, kind, and a jokester. Later, when looking back on their marriage, Rick said, "We had good days and bad days." Their youngest son had medical issues, so they drove regularly to the Boston Children's Hospital, a challenge for 2 working parents. Their rental property wasn't as lucrative as they had hoped it would be. Then Connie got into a car accident and took time off to heal. All that seemed to be adding up by late 2014, when Rick said they debated splitting up. Connie wrote a note to herself in December 2014, listing all the things she didn't like about Rick. He took money from accounts that weren't his, let the kids watch TV for hours, didn't keep his promises, was a liar, wanted to be the center of attention all the time, was secretive with how he spent his time, his lack of romance and his childish behavior. The very long note read like a stream of consciousness. It was called "Why I Want a Divorce." She also wrote a section called "The Good" and said not everything about Rick was bad. After all, he brought her tea and gave neck rubs. People liked him. He helped her parents, and he was fun-loving. "I still find him attractive," Connie wrote. "I'm myself around him." The reasons for a divorce were much longer than the good, though. According to Rick, the couple started discussing what life would look like if they did, in fact, divorce.
We talked about the logistics of how it would work, where we would live, how we would sell everything, how we would split everything up, how often we would get kids.
Just before Christmas time in 2015, Rick and Connie went on a trip to New Hampshire. They celebrated the holidays, seeing Santa's village and riding on a Polar Express trip. They appeared to be rekindling their love that winter. Also around that time, they would text each other sweet and sometimes sexy messages. "Thank you, you are amazing. Love you," Connie wrote in one message. "While you're at work, can you find out how much vacation you have and what days, so I can plan the week?" She added smiley faces. Rick went out of his way to ask if she needed anything from the store on his way home from work. But also that month, Rick was actively carrying out an affair with someone else. Someone he had also gotten pregnant. And that was the complicated life of Rick Dabate, leading up to a home invasion and his wife's murder. On December 23, 2015, police and first responders responded to the scene. Rick tried to recount what had just happened. "The more I talk to you, the less I remember," he told the officers. He said he was freaking out because his ears were still ringing. Investigators soon found his wallet with $20 in cash and all of his credit and debit cards outside in the family's backyard. Inside the house was a gruesome scene. Connie had been shot twice, in the lower left torso and in the back of the head. The medical examiner reported that there were no defensive wounds or injuries from a struggle. Her manner of death was a homicide. Earlier that fall, Rick had bought a firearm, even though Connie was vehemently against guns and was afraid of them. He kept that gun in a safe in the basement, he told police, where he also kept important documents. Bullets fired from that gun had been what ended Connie's life. Investigators interviewed Rick immediately. During the interview, they asked him the status of his marriage. Rick told them things weren't great between Connie and him, but not because he had been cheating on Connie and had gotten his girlfriend, his friend Sarah, pregnant. In the police report, Rick claimed Connie wanted a third baby and couldn't have one for health reasons, so they decided to have their friend, presumably Sarah, be artificially inseminated and be their surrogate. But Rick said the medical procedures and donating sperm and that route were too expensive, so he did some untraditional things, he said, and their surrogate had gotten pregnant the old-fashioned way. Rick told the police the situation was a fricking soap opera. But Rick insisted Connie wasn't upset. "She was amazing. I never expected it to go that way," he said. But then Rick began to walk back his story and admitted that the pregnancy was unexpected. He told police he didn't want to lie and admitted he had been cheating on Connie, and that's how Sarah got pregnant. He told them she was due in February 2016, in 2 months. One thing Rick was adamant about, however, as police interviewed him in the hospital. "I did not shoot Connie," he said. "I'm going to stick with my truth. I did not lie to you." But it was clear investigators didn't believe him. They confronted him about why he hadn't checked on his wife's condition after the intruder left. Why were there no tears in his eyes? He showed little emotion, given that Connie was dead. Rick insisted he couldn't do anything to save her. He got defensive. "Ask the nurses," he said. He had cried. "I'm not a criminal and I'm not violent," he told investigators. "It wasn't me." "I'm going to need to get a lawyer," he said. "I have to think smart now if you guys are here accusing me of this." 3 canine trackers couldn't detect any scent of an intruder fleeing the house. Neighbors hadn't seen anyone in a mask or in camouflage that morning. Officers noted Rick had been cooperative and gave written consent for them to search his phone, his house, and his body. They could see his injuries, which included 2 cuts on his thighs, a place thick with fat and muscle, but no internal organs nor tendons, according to law enforcement's perspective. From their report, quote, "The injury to Dabate's legs were non-incapacitating, although Dabate appeared physically incapacitated upon the arrival of the first responders." The report went on to say, quote, "It is also noted that a person, either using his left or right hand, holding a utility knife with that hand, would be able to cause similarly parallel lacerations on their own legs and chest if they were to use the same hand to self-inflict all of the injuries." There were no bruises or signs of a struggle on Rick either. After getting treatment for his cuts, he walked out of the hospital. On Christmas Eve, Rick spoke with one of Connie's family members. The relative noticed he didn't say, "I miss her," or "I loved her." The first thing he said was, "It wasn't me." Family and friends of Connie were shocked by the news emerging from her death. Even Connie's best friend hadn't known about the affair or the baby out of wedlock, or that Connie and Rick had been allegedly considering a divorce. Many said they knew Connie wasn't happy in her marriage, but they hadn't known the full extent of it. Rick had known Sarah since they were in junior high, when they were 12 or 13 years old. "She was one of my best friends," he said. He told detectives that in 2004 or 2005, they were romantic a handful of times. That timeline meant Rick was already married to Connie at this point, but wasn't a father yet. The affair eventually ended. Sarah got married herself and moved away. By late 2013, though, she moved back into Rick's life. Literally, she bought a house near Rick and Connie. She was divorced. And so Rick and Sarah started talking again, friendly at first. By 2015, they were intimate again. Sarah broke shocking news to Rick via text message in mid-2015. She was pregnant. Rick couldn't believe it.
Did she present options to you?
Yes, she did.
What options did she present to you?
She said if you stay with Connie, that she wouldn't tell anyone who the dad was. And if I did get a divorce, then we'd figure out a way to co-parent.
At that point, did she say she would tell Connie?
No.
Did you tell Connie at that point?
I didn't.
Rick's family and friends who knew about the affair all warned him he needed to tell his wife about the situation. That fall, Rick claims he told Connie, who reacted as one would expect. She slapped him and he left the house and drove around aimlessly until he returned to an unhappy home. He slept on the couch. Connie was angry and humiliated. Their divorce talk continued. Rick said he was torn between his pregnant girlfriend and his wife, whom he had built his life with. But he was clear, Sarah wasn't pushing him to leave Connie and get a divorce. She was resolute that she could raise their child on her own. He said she didn't pressure him to come out publicly that he was the father either. It could be their secret. No one would have to know. Investigators, however, believed Connie had no idea about her husband's extramarital affair. And it appeared as though Sarah was under the impression Rick was going to file for divorce and had already been talking to a divorce attorney. Sarah had told her friends she and Rick had been in love with each other since they were 14. Investigators also obtained Rick's financial records. He had spent $1,200 at Electric Blue Cafe, which advertised itself as having the widest variety of exotic dancers in New England. On December 22nd, the night before Connie's murder, his credit card showed a transaction for a $300 cruise in Miami. Text messages also revealed the tangled love life between Rick and Sarah. Investigators could read the exchanges themselves when they searched Sarah's phone. They soon discovered Rick had used another phone number to write to Sarah, which was not his primary cell phone. Rick hadn't brought up this secret phone during his police interviews. 2 months before Connie's death, Sarah had been texting baby name suggestions to Rick. Rick complained to an unidentified person about his wife being a bitch and yelling at him. And here's what Rick and Sarah were texting to each other on December 17th, 1 week before Connie's death. Sarah, so what would you like to do tonight at your sleepover? Rick, pillow fight? Then, 4 days before Connie's death. Sarah, I want you to understand I'm not just interested in being with you for sex. I feel relaxed and comfortable with you. Home feels like home, so it's not just sleeping with you. A few hours later. Sarah, why did you surprise Connie with a trip to Vermont without the kids? And why didn't you warn me? What are you doing, Rick? Are you playing me? 3 days before Connie's death. Rick, what you're reading on Facebook last night was not anything that actually happened. I'll call you later to explain. My uncle that passed away, that's the town. The family needed someone to go out and pick up some things at the house. The new owner found some personal items. I dropped the kids off at my parents' house and I gave Connie and I a chance to work out some items regarding the divorce. She's also not ready to be public on Facebook about it. This is certainly nothing romantic. Sarah had seen the mention of a surprise getaway to Vermont from a friend who apparently saw Connie's post on social media. Sarah told her friend, Connie makes things all sunshine and rainbows. Sarah to Rick, I have no right to be jealous or angry or hurt. I shouldn't make you have to explain. I just wish you had warned me. It was more jarring than I expected to think you were taking Connie away for a weekend. Rick, it actually makes more sense than it appears. You see, Connie has a book or something on divorce for the modern times, and we've been going through exercises to get through certain emotional steps. One of the exercises is to post something that you normally would when marriage was good on social media, and then delete it. It's supposed to be something about putting the past in the past and moving on. I'll explain more when I actually have time to give you a call, but I'm very optimistic about the next week and a half for real. Sarah, I believe you. Thank you for not getting upset with me and just explaining this to me. I'm glad you and Connie are trying to work through your feelings about your divorce. That's healthy. Rick, seriously? Me upset with you? You've shown me nothing but honesty, bravery, understanding, compassion, and patience. Then, 2 days before Connie's death. Sarah, I still hope you're naughty and make it over tonight. Rick responded that he has to spend time with his dad. 1 day before Connie's death. Rick, I miss how comfortable you both make me feel. I've had so much to do this week. I'm not prepared for Christmas, and I had no idea how much stuff is going on. I have not exactly been firing on all cylinders, but I feel recharged after spending some time with you. He told Sarah he was thinking of her. Sarah, I miss you. Rick, see you tomorrow, my little love nugget. Sarah, see you tomorrow, my little jackass. In April 2017, almost 2 years after Connie was murdered, Rick was arrested and charged with first-degree murder, tampering with evidence, and making false statements. Investigators had a husband who had been actively cheating on his wife and who may have wanted out of his marriage. But could they prove that he murdered his wife to a jury? In May 2022, 6 years after Connie's murder, Rick Dabate went on trial. Prosecutors told the jury that Rick had been cheating on his wife and that he staged a home invasion in order to kill her. They said there was something that could prove Rick's account of what had happened at their home on the morning of December 23, 2015, was not true. And that's Connie's Fitbit, among other technology. They said Connie was up and moving around at the time Rick said the intruder shot and killed her. They laid out the movements in the house on the morning of December 23rd, using Connie's Fitbit, Rick's phone and Surface Pro laptop, and the home's alarm security system. The following is from what was presented in court. In the 6 o'clock hour, there's a lot of movement in the house, showing the family waking up for the day. The sliding door opens and closes, as do the doors to the basement. Rick is on his Surface Pro at the kitchen table, checking his email and going on Facebook. At 7:07 a.m., Connie misses a call from a friend. She then speaks to that friend for about 14 minutes. According to the friend's testimony, they were trying to make plans. Connie sends a Facebook message to her friend Laura and then posts a video. At 7:53, the Fitbit on Connie's waistband registers her first steps of the day. According to testimony, this was incidental walking, meaning she was just walking around the house. Doors around the house continue to open and close. According to Connie's Fitbit, there's about 6 minutes where she's not walking. Rick is back at his Surface Pro checking Facebook, searching the Westover Inn, where they were at the previous weekend. Connie is on Facebook too. Rick texts his mom. Then he sends a text to Connie's mom. The garage doors open. Connie starts to walk again. The basement doors open and close. A neighbor testifies that he sees Rick down at the end of the driveway. It's about 8:15 or 8:20. The kids get on their school bus and Rick backs his car up the driveway. Connie is walking, more purposeful walking at this point. This goes on for a few minutes. The garage door closes. She continues to walk. Rick is back on his Surface Pro on Facebook. Connie continues to walk while he is on Facebook. He then searches for the restaurant they were at. The basement doors open and close. Connie is still walking. Then there's 4 minutes where she isn't walking. Rick is still on his computer, looking up tattoo ideas. He searches CNN and Steve Harvey, reads his emails. At 8:41, Connie sends a message to her friend Kelly. Rick is still at home, checks his calendar, his to-do list, and goes back on Facebook. He reads a Star Wars review at 8:42.
And Connie's walking, garage door opens, she's still walking, garage door closes. Still walking, and she's about to leave for the YMCA. Sliding door opens and closes, and there from 8:46 she leaves the residence, and she arrives, you'll see from those YMCA photos, right at about this time. It matches up perfectly with the Fitbit and the YMCA photos. He's still home. The garage door is opening and closing, and he uses his key fob, and we know at the most he is 500 feet from the residence. But we also know that it's less than that because there's walls, there's trees. And he arms the alarm system. And he starts playing around with it, and it's clear he's not very adept at playing around with the alarm system because he's chasing his tail. The emails and the texts are not coming instantaneously. So he's sending the commands, but he's not seeing them coming instantaneously. So he keeps doing it over and over again. Basement doors opening and closing. He receives 2 texts back from Connie's mom, one at 8:49 and 33 seconds, the second one at 8:49 and 55 seconds. These commands are still coming about the alarm system, and they're coming to his email, they're coming to his texts, and we see those in his phone. He's using the mobile app on his phone, and it's getting armed, it's getting disarmed. And here's Connie arriving at the YMCA at 8:53 and 25 seconds. Here's Connie walking into the Y. Here's Connie checking into the Y. There's the steps logged from the parking lot into the Y. There's a period of no steps when she's sending Facebook message to Barb Pinty and receiving it back, and also trying to figure out from that bulletin board why there's no classes.
Meanwhile, Rick is still at home on his Surface Pro looking at Facebook. He then uses his key fob. He has to be within 500 feet of his residence. He's on the phone now, texting and emailing. Connie is still walking at the YMCA. She gets a reply on Facebook from her friend at 9:03. The basement doors at the home open and close. Connie is still walking. The garage doors open and close. Rick sends an email to his boss and then deletes it. Connie is walking again. She calls her friend. She leaves the YMCA parking lot in her car at 9:07. Rick is now on Facebook from his iPhone from 9:15 to 9:16. He then goes back to the Surface Pro on Facebook. Connie returns home at 9:18. She receives a call from her mom and talks to her until 9:22.
And what does the defendant do? The first thing he does, what is she doing home? He checks the YMCA website and trying to figure out why she's home. Why would he do that? And that's on the Surface Pro. Connie's walking, and as Dr. Diaz told us, just kind of incidental steps. There's no running at this point. He's still on the Surface Pro, and Connie's still walking just sort of incidentally. He's still on the Surface Pro. He's still on the Surface Pro. He's still on the Surface Pro. Now he's trying to act normal. He's got to just keep doing what he's doing. He's looking at the New York Giants, and he's still on the Surface Pro. And Connie's just walking. No running, just walking. And he's still on the Surface Pro. Now he's on Mike and Mike on ESPN, and she's still walking. And he's still on the Surface Pro, and she's still walking. Garage door opens. She's still walking. There's a period of no walking for her. And he searches the center room school.
Then Connie is walking again, incidental walking, and Rick reads another work email. That's the last time he's on his Surface Pro at 9:27. Connie continues to walk. The basement door is opened. Garage door is closed. Her last movement on the second floor is anywhere between 9:34 and 9:36. Connie continues to walk. The front door is opened. She continues to walk. Then there's a period of her not walking, and she shares videos on Facebook. She sends a Facebook message to a contractor. That's her last communication. He responds at 9:50 and it's not seen. She continues to walk. Her last steps were at 10:05. Rick's key fob presses the panic button at 10:11. Alerts are sent to his phone, but he doesn't respond. At 10:18, Rick misdials 911. At 10:19, he is successful. First responders testified, and all of them stated that they did not see anyone fleeing from the house when they arrived. They also testified that there were 3 gunshots that occurred that morning. 1 shot had been fired into the rafters. The prosecution called expert witness Dr. Keith Diaz to the stand to testify about the Fitbit evidence. Dr. Diaz, an assistant professor of behavioral health at Columbia University School of Medicine, vouched for the accuracy of wearable fitness devices. I'm the director of the Wearable Device Reading Center at Columbia University Medical Center, he testified. He called the Fitbit very accurate in measuring steps after he did a peer-reviewed National Institute of Health-funded scientific study on the device.
You said the study involved different speeds of walking.
Yes, so we had a slow walk, a moderate walk, a fast walk, and a jog. And across all speeds, the device was really accurate. The error rate was less than 3% for all 4 speeds that were tested.
Connie's mother testified that she spoke with Connie on the morning she died. She said Connie seemed stressed and had made an appointment to see a therapist. When asked why the appointment was made, Connie said it was because Rick was a mess. Others who saw Connie that morning at the YMCA testified that she was cheery as she discussed plans for Christmas. Dr. Charles Gendreau was the ER physician who treated Rick Dabate when he was brought to the hospital. He was asked if Rick's injuries were consistent with self-inflicted wounds, and he said yes. On cross, he was asked why he didn't include that in his report, and if he truly thought that, why didn't he make a referral then to a mental health professional? Dr. Gendreau said it was only a clinical impression he felt at the time, and that Rick hadn't made any suicidal statements to him. Associate Medical Examiner Frank Evangelista performed the autopsy on Connie. He testified that she was shot twice, once in the abdomen, which started at the front, went right to left, and in a downward path. The second shot was to her head and entered through the back, heading right to left and slightly upward. He testified that the bullet to the head would have killed her instantly, but that he couldn't tell which shot happened first. Forensic examiner Dr. Angela Pretsch told the jury about DNA she analyzed from the case. She testified that 4 swabs were taken from Rick's handgun found at the scene. The handle of the gun contained a mixture that included Rick's DNA, but also included another unknown DNA profile. There was also unknown DNA found on the gun's cylinder, mixed in with Connie's DNA. Unidentified DNA was also found on the exterior doorknob to the Dabate's primary bedroom closet. Prosecutors then called Carl Ladd to the stand, a supervisor from the forensic lab. He testified that as the years have gone on, there has been an increase in the sensitivity of DNA testing, which he said increases the worry for contamination. He testified that, for example, the unknown profile on the gun could have been there from years prior, even before Rick ever purchased it. The prosecutor pointed out that DNA from a state police trooper was found on the safe in the Dabate's basement, but that trooper hadn't touched it. Ladd said that didn't surprise him. Allison Gingell processed the gunshot residue evidence. She testified that a swab from the back of Rick's right hand came back positive. The same type of particle found there was also found on his left rear pants pocket, his right shirt sleeve, and chest area. A test on Connie's hands also tested positive for gunshot residue particles. She told the jury that gunshot residue on someone's body doesn't mean they fired a gun, but that they could have been in close proximity to a gun that was fired, or touched an object that had residue on it. Rick's former girlfriend and now mother to his child, Sarah, took the stand too. She was asked if she was naturally a shy or quiet person. That question opened up Sarah to share what it was like to talk publicly about the affair.
This is a really hard subject for me to talk about. Yeah. It's extremely embarrassing. It's very painful. It's humiliating. And I'm not necessarily, I'm ashamed of my behavior. So it's not something I want to stand up and project about.
Because of your nature, was it often the case that you didn't regularly bring up the prospect of a divorce with Rick Dabate?
That, and because I did not want to be the cause of a breakup of their family. It was enough that I was pregnant. I did not want to break up their family.
Sarah said she did not want to break up Rick's marriage. Rick told her he was going to leave Connie. She said he told her that he didn't believe there was any possibility of reconciliation and that they were even sleeping in different bedrooms. When Sarah became pregnant in May 2015, by then she saw Rick once or twice a week. The pregnancy was an accident, Sarah testified, but she viewed it as a blessing because she hadn't known if she could ever have children. According to Sarah's testimony, Rick lied to her regularly. He claimed to be going to a divorce attorney. Not true. He said he moved his stuff out of Connie's house. Not true. At one point, Rick and Sarah cut off all ties on social media, Sarah testified. He shut her out. But then he came back.
How would he make his way back into your life?
Between the 30 years of history, just being friends, and he was going to be the father of my only kid, so it isn't that hard.
Okay. Did he buy?
I wanted to believe him.
Did he buy you gifts?
I don't recall him buying me gifts.
Send you flowers?
He might have sent me flowers once.
Okay.
Or twice.
Okay. And when you would shut him out, were you planning on finding someone else to be with to be a step-parent, or doing this alone?
No, I was planning on doing it by myself.
In February 2016, Sarah gave birth to a daughter. She named Rick as the father on the birth certificate. She testified she eventually continued her romantic relationship with Rick and wanted him to see his daughter until he was arrested in 2017. Around 2019, while Rick was out on bail, Rick and Sarah's relationship was strictly co-parenting, she testified. And now, as Rick stood trial for murder, she said she was no longer with him romantically. One of Rick's best friends testified that Rick was worried about getting a divorce and that he didn't want to lose his friends or family. He said Rick told him a few months prior to Connie's death that men usually are at a disadvantage when getting a divorce, and that women typically get the house and custody of the kids. After Connie's murder, he said he talked to Rick about what happened. Rick told him what he had told police, and then said that his lawyers told him not to talk about it. He said then Rick started to talk about everyday things, as though his wife hadn't just died weeks earlier. He said he had showed up with pockets of tissues, but that he never needed to give them out. Rick Dabate testified on his own behalf, telling the jury about being tied up with zip ties and stabbed by the intruder. He maintained that although he had lied and cheated on Connie, they were working things out and were in a good place. But one thing was different in his testimony than from what he had initially told detectives. Now, he said he had been home for about an hour before he discovered the intruder upstairs and before Connie came home. Prosecutor Matt Gdansky got a chance to confront Rick about the discrepancies in the timeline on cross.
You told the state police that you came home, put your keys and your phone down, was going to make a coffee, and you heard the noise and you went right upstairs. Now what are you telling us?
I don't remember saying I went right upstairs. If I did, as we talked earlier, I was in shock of that day. I was exhausted. It was an extremely long day.
You would agree with me that the two detectives were not pressing you for details. They were letting you tell your story and giving you as much time as you needed.
I was trying to be as honest as possible, facts of the day, sir.
I know you were trying to be, but were you?
Yes, sir.
Gdansky also questioned him about how the intruder was able to get the tools so quickly.
And your testimony is that, and your story to the police is that after Connie gets shot, Vin Diesel does some pressure point thing on you and sits you down in this chair. Right?
Those are the words I used at the time to describe how it felt.
Okay, but you said something similar today, right?
Pressure point is probably not the best word to use.
Okay, what would you use?
I don't know. Self-defense, manipulation, I don't know.
Self-defense?
Something that you would learn at a class, I don't know.
And so he sits you down in the chair, and you remain seated in the chair while he went and found your tools?
You stated earlier, everything was right there.
Well, you told the state police that the tools were on the wood side.
I normally keep them on the wood side. They were there.
So that he just immediately picked them up?
No, I think they were there, and I misremembered. I don't know.
So as he's sitting you on the chair, he can just pick them up because they're right there?
Yes, that's...
Gdansky questioned him about 3 gunshots having been fired.
And you've heard the testimony here. There were actually 3 shots in the basement, weren't there?
That was news to me at this trial. I did not know there were...
And that first shot into the rafters, that's because Connie's fighting with you, isn't she?
No, sir.
She had her hands on the barrel of that gun, didn't she?
If she did, it wasn't with me in the room.
And then she slipped away It slipped out of her hands, and you shot her in the back of the head. Did you not?
Absolutely not, sir.
And she fell. You heard the testimony. It hit the basal ganglia. It's going to drop her on the spot, right?
I heard testimony.
And then you went up to her, and you pulled her back, and you put another shot in her stomach to finish her off, didn't you?
Absolutely not, sir.
Gdański accused him of having then moved Connie's body. He denied it.
And then instead of shooting you, your testimony is that Vin Diesel decides he's going to sit you down in a chair and zip tie you and torture you with your own tools.
Yes, sir.
He didn't use the knife that you described for the state police, and you actually made a drawing of it. He didn't use that big knife.
No.
He used your box cutter.
Yes.
The defense also called a woman who was cleaning a house near the Dabate home that morning. She recalled seeing something that was dark green and very large running by the window. She couldn't say if it was a person or an animal. On cross, she agreed that there was film on the window and that it could have been her own reflection she had seen. In his closing arguments, Prosecutor Gdański went over the timeline again, provided mostly to them by Connie's Fitbit.
Why does Connie's Fitbit results match exactly her trip to the Y and back from the Y? Why is the defendant looking at the YMCA schedule just as she's getting home? Why does the GPS match exactly Connie going to and from the Y and they match the photos and arriving back home? But somehow if that's accurate, it's not accurate for the defendant. Why is Connie posting Facebook videos at 9:40 and 9:45 and posting a Facebook message at 9:46 if she's supposedly running from Vin Diesel? She'd been home for a little less than 30 minutes at that point. This was not an immediately run in the house and run to the basement. And given the defendant's new timeline of now being at home for an hour that he hadn't mentioned to anyone, when did Vin Diesel slip by him to get to the second floor? Why does Connie's Fitbit not show her running, just incidental walking?
He addressed the unidentified DNA that was found at the scene.
The defense wants you to guess. They want you to speculate, and they want you to ignore everything else. And when you view that stray DNA against the overwhelming evidence that shows that this defendant committed this crime, that clearly was deposited ahead of time, beforehand, and has nothing to do with this crime.
He gave the jury some questions to think about.
And I ask you, this defendant is not guilty of this crime. Why are there no signs of forced entry in this house? Why is there no vehicle parked in the driveway or by the property? Why is there nothing stolen from this house? The first floor is filled with computers and tablets and flat screen TVs. Why is there nothing stolen from the second floor? No jewelry missing, no drawers rifled through. The garage is filled with power tools and equipment. Nothing's missing from there. Why is there nothing piled by the doors waiting for the escape? Was Vin Diesel going to carry all this stuff that hadn't been removed yet through the woods?
He said this is a busy neighborhood with a lot of people coming and going. How did nobody see anything? He asked why Rick changed his timeline with his testimony, now saying he had been home for an hour.
Now he's home for an hour. Why did he change that? Is it because the Microsoft Surface Pro timeline totally blew up his timeline? The same story, incidentally, that he told the police for 5 hours or so, the same story he told his family, the same story he told every friend he told, the same story he told to the Margadas. Now all of a sudden it's changing.
He told the jury that if they believe Rick's story, they should find him not guilty and acquit him.
But if your first reaction, way back at the beginning of the trial, after hearing that interview at Hartford Hospital to Detective Payette and Detective Langella, if your first reaction was, this does not make sense, this story is not believable, then you may have been wondering during the last 5 weeks, what is the state doing? Why haven't they just gotten on with it? But just not believing the story is not enough. We have to prove it. We have to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. We have to cross every T and we have to dot every I. And the first step is to know everything we can about what happened in that house. And we do. We know everything that happened with the defendant. We know everything that happened with Connie. We know everything that happened with that house through the Microsoft Surface Pro usage, through each of their cell phones, through the alarm system, and through live witnesses.
In his closing arguments, Rick's attorney addressed inconsistencies in Rick's testimony.
Now, first I want you to think about what's the effect of trauma on your memory. Do you think a traumatic episode is going to make him better remembering the exact timeline? Better remembering small details like, oh, I was on the Giants Facebook page that day. Is that something you're going to remember from that day? Or are you going to remember other parts of that day? So think about which details Rick Dabate was consistent on when he told this story over 6 years. There's an intruder in his closet. His wife came in the door. He yelled. He was overpowered. They went down to the basement. In the basement, the intruder was able to get the gun and shot his wife. Then the intruder tied him up, stabbed him, pulled out a blowtorch. He was able to push the blowtorch up. The intruder went out the bulkhead. Those are details that are consistent.
He said Rick was also consistent about details that don't make him look heroic, like the fact that he was overpowered and how he didn't go check on his wife. He called the electronic evidence in the case, the evidence prosecutors relied on, unreliable, and pointed to numerous times in the trial when it was shown that the technology wasn't exactly perfect.
So how reliable is this evidence? We've heard throughout this case that electronic evidence does all sorts of unpredictable, unreliable things. The phone extraction from Hatzakatis is dated 12/21. That's the date, phone date and time of the extraction of a phone that everyone agrees was taken on December 23rd and not extracted till after that. So why would the phone extraction happen? He can't tell us any reason why that would be. He doesn't even understand. Trooper Connor said, I took 9 photographs that day. Somehow they got deleted, right from the beginning of the case. They got deleted somehow. How? He didn't really know. And then he was able to recover 8 of them, but not 9. Why couldn't you recover the last one? No idea. IP addresses change over time. Witness couldn't tell us why. Even just that exhibit shown to you by Attorney Gdansky, the last messages for Connie Dabate. What does it say in the other half of that conversation? These messages were marked as spam or abusive by Facebook. Why would they mark messages between her and Brian Wells as abusive or spam? We don't understand. Nobody reported it that way. Throughout the case, it's been a consistent theme. This technology is not 100% consistent.
He said even technology in 2022 isn't perfect.
These are private companies. The alarm data, the Fitbit, the GPS phone, these are private companies that are not collecting this data to be perfect in court. They're doing it so they can sell you a better device a year later. The Fitbit is doing it so they can sell you a new Fitbit version 2.0 at Dick's Sporting Goods or Walmart a year later. They're not collecting it to be used in a court like this.
He said that on the Surface Pro log, there's a gap in activity starting at 8:59, which he said matches when Rick could have left for work and then came back. He told the jury that if they have a reasonable doubt that a third party may have committed this crime, they have to vote not guilty. He told them there was unidentified DNA on the primary bedroom closet doorknob and unidentified male DNA on the other side of the doorknob. How many people other than Rick and Connie are going into that primary bedroom? In the closet, he asked. As for the DNA that was found on the safe in the basement, he said Rick was eliminated, and an unidentified person's DNA was found on 3 places on the safe. He told the jury that inside the safe were their most personal documents. How many people would have touched that safe, tucked in the back of the basement, other than Rick and Connie, he asked. Then there was the firearm, and how there was unidentified DNA on the gun handle and the cylinder. Rick's DNA was also on the handle, but wasn't on the cylinder or the hammer. He didn't recently load it or pull the trigger to fire it, he said.
The most likely explanation for why are Rick, Connie, and an unidentified person's DNA on that gun? Because those are the 3 people in the basement those are the 3 people down in that basement.
He told the jury that Rick said the intruder grabbed him and pushed him down into a dusty chair. There was unidentified DNA on the chair as well as on the inside of Rick's collar.
I'll ask you folks, you wearing a clean shirt today? How often are people, and it's not Connie's DNA, but how often are people touching you inside your collar? How would Rick Dabate know that the DNA is going to turn up unidentified DNA on the inside of his shirt collar such that he tells him, yeah, he grabbed me around the shoulder and neck? What are the odds anybody in that morning touched Rick Dabate at the neck?
He said Rick said the guy ran out through the bulkhead door. Rick and Connie's DNA was eliminated from the doorknob, but there was also unknown male DNA there. So
we have unidentified DNA in 6 places that are all places you would not be letting strangers in your house. All highly unlikely places. What are the odds? It's in all 6 of those places. We're not talking about the front door. We're not talking about the doorbell. We're not talking about their fridge where guests may touch it. We're talking about 6 places that are intimate parts of your house. 6 places you don't have guests. What are the odds there's unidentified DNA on all 6 of those places that Rick Dabate said from the very beginning that intruder was? Astronomical. Astronomical.
He then brought up the gunshot residue. He said, we know Rick didn't wash his hands. There was dried blood on them in photos from the hospital. He pointed out that the gunshot residue analyst said gunshot residue can transfer from someone who shot a gun to another person. The person with the most residue on them was Connie. He said she had it in 3 different places, but we know she didn't shoot a gun. Rick didn't have any on his right palm, which was unwashed, but it was found on the right back of his hand. But he pointed out that that's where Rick said the intruder grabbed his wrist. As for Rick's injuries, he said they were not minor. There was so much blood that an experienced police officer thought he was dead when he first saw him. Experienced paramedics sent him to the biggest hospital in the city. He told the jury that the police didn't do an adequate investigation. They only took 1 blood sample from each spot in the basement, even though Rick had told them that there was a struggle with an intruder. He said it's obvious they were focused on Rick from the beginning because they didn't test the points of entry into the house. He pointed out that a neighbor had testified earlier that police told him that day that there was no immediate danger to the public. This was only 2 hours after Rick had called 911, he said. He questioned why Rick's DNA wasn't under Connie's fingernails, or why Connie's wasn't on Rick.
And again, the DNA, if Rick Dabate moved her body, or if Rick Dabate was close to her, struggling with her, and then shot her, and if DNA is so easy for it to transfer from one person to another, then why isn't Connie's DNA on Rick? Why isn't Connie have Rick Dabate's DNA in her fingernails? Why isn't Rick Dabate's DNA on Connie from when he moved her? Why? Because they weren't close that morning. They were apart, just like Rick Dabate said. The other thing I'll say about the DNA is that's your reasonable doubt right there. That is a great source of reasonable doubt for you to consider. Is what are the odds this DNA would be in all 6 of these places and be unidentified?
He said for 6 years, Rick has been under a microscope.
The fact that he struggled and was ill when he had to tell Connie's family what happened to her. The fact that he thought that was an emotionally difficult experience. That's a sign of guilt, or is that a sign of being a human? You heard he's a stoic guy. You heard he doesn't show emotions to people at work and some other people he doesn't know. He cried around his family. He didn't cry around a lot of other people. That's not easy for stoic people. It's not easy for anybody. Don't judge him because he didn't grieve the way you think he would have or the state thinks he should have. That's not how we do this.
The jurors deliberated and reached a verdict in May 2022. They found Rick Dabate guilty of murder and tampering with evidence. Before he was sentenced, Connie's loved ones addressed the courtroom about their loss, saying her boys had suffered the most, traumatized over losing their mother. Rick was sentenced to 65 years in prison. His attorneys said they will appeal and that they are confident they will prevail. And that's all for this episode. As always, I'd love to know what you think about this case. Let me know by joining the conversation on Instagram @CourtJunkie, on Twitter @CourtJunkiePod, or you can email me at podcast@courtjunkie.com. This episode was researched and written by Gabrielle Russon. If you'd like to hear these episodes without the ads or hear additional Court Junkie bonus episodes, check out my Patreon options at courtjunkie.com/support. And also be sure to subscribe to our new podcast out soon, Civil, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Thanks again for listening. Until next time.